I'm Rachel from the Kick-Ass Midlife Method, and I'm joined this evening by some women from inside the community. And today we're talking about how to achieve any goal in 5 simple steps. So we are discussing this we're kind of midway through January, and it's kind of around this time that all that kind of like excitement about hitting January the 1st starts to wane. We start to lose track of what our goals were. Everything seems a little bit more difficult. So this is why I'm kind of focusing on this a little bit more now as we go through this how to achieve your goals. So, firstly, most people don't achieve their goals because they actually don't take the time to decide what they want. So, just to repeat that again, you're thinking about, these goals can be in your head often. Or maybe you started 2 weeks ago and you were like, yeah, I'm really clear about my goals. Then work rushed in, you're back to work. It's suddenly really hectic again. And how many of you do you feel like you've kind of forgotten what your goals are, your tangible goals? Give me a 2 if you think you've forgotten your goals or not very clear on them at the moment. A 3 if you are in the chat box. See where you are. So 2 if you've forgotten your goals, 3 if you're very clear on them. Bit of both. Great that a lot of you are clear, so that's good. Well, this would be hopefully easier for you then, this. So part of the reason about deciding, what you want comes down to, or making it feel really difficult is often these things stay in your head and they're more of a dream than a goal. So kind of what's the difference between a dream rather than a goal? So even looking at this picture and then comparing it to this picture, you might get this sense of this different feel of what the difference is between a dream and goal. So try and saying your dream out loud, or try saying your dream out loud, or my goal is compared to my dream. It should feel really different. So I want you now to write down on your piece of paper, if you come with a piece of paper, what your goal is. So write it down now on your piece of paper. And then maybe when you're sitting there, just say it out loud to yourself, compared to when you are thinking about dream. So dream is something you just imagine, quite woolly. A goal is something you can achieve. So for an example, I want to achieve financial freedom is an example of a goal, and you need to be able to measure that. So it could be paying off your credit cards, for instance. It's hard to measure a dream. I want to write a book. So rather than I want to write a book, I want to write a book and be published by an agent and hit the top 10 list, for instance. Your goal could be, I want to feel better in my clothes and strong enough to pick up my kids and my grandkids. So to be specific with that could be, I want to lose 15 kilos and build the strength to lift 20 kilos overhead, for instance. So yeah, I want to invite you now to just write your goals in in the chat box. So if you've got a really clear goal, just share it in the chat box now about what that goal is. Or if you're unsure about the goal, just so I'm not talking to just the laptop, if you're unsure about the goal, give me a 5 if you now feel a bit clearer on your goal, or it's changed from like literally 2 slides ago when I first said it. That maybe you hadn't written it down, you hadn't been specific about it. Yeah, so it has changed for some of you, or you're not being specific about it. Okay, we'll move on. So yeah, so writing it down, and we spoke about this in the meeting last week. Writing it down, and then putting it somewhere helps to create this kind of focus. It's a little bit almost like nowadays, the weirdness of iPhones. You know, when your iPhone is near you and you start talking about something, and then suddenly you're on Instagram and all the ads seem to be tailored to whatever that was you were thinking about. It's the same kind of method, really. If you write it down, it becomes a bit more of a focus. It becomes a bit more real for you. Your brain recognizes it's important to you. And for some of us, in households where maybe we've got partners who are not really aware that it's important to you and therefore are always saying, maybe are slightly moaning about the food that you're eating. Maybe writing it down and putting it somewhere makes also them realize that it's something that's important to them. So we spoke about this on last week's talk. So I'd like to again give me a 6 in the chat if you actually did that last week. So we spoke last week about writing it down, pinning that goal somewhere on the mirror, anywhere. Did anyone do it? 6 for yes, 7 for no. For 7. So yeah, it's really common for us to think about these goals and then life gets in the way and it becomes not really a focus because you're not writing it down, you're not really keeping it really clear in your mind that this is your goal, why it's important to you. So remembering that, for instance, if it's about feeling more confident in your clothes, and therefore that's about losing weight and changing your body composition and how that makes you feel, it could be your goal is around the feeling that losing that weight is going to create and those steps that you're going to take to get it. So by next week, or actually this evening, or tomorrow morning, I wanted to share in the chat um, whether you've written your goals, and if you have, where have you put it? Where have you put it so it's really visible, so it's there in sight all the time to remind you of what your goal is, even when everything else becomes really hectic around you. So step 3, find the formula. So for instance, I set up this online business after doing outdoor stuff like last year. There's a formula for being an online coach. Whatever it is, switching careers, creating a podcast, finding a new partner, losing weight, adding strength, there's always a formula. Loads of people have done it before. Nothing's truly unique, and they're there because they work. So the kick-ass midlife method isn't a fluke. It doesn't work for some people and not others. It works. It's really just about the application and the consistencies to doing it. So for instance, my online coach formula, I had to post online about myself all the time. And that was really, really difficult. And it really only, before when I had the company Girls Run the World, which some of you might know, it was very much hiding behind more of a kind of a magazine style format where I didn't really talk about myself. So it was really hard to put myself on social media, talking about myself, being on social media all the time, but that is the formula that works. And so it's really about when things become hard, it's really easy to start looking for the shiny new things and thinking, well, this isn't working, rather than thinking I'm not actually doing it and looking for some other way out that's going to provide this perfect easy way of doing it. And really, it is about finding the formula, sticking to the formula, and keep on doing the things. So yeah, the slide number 4 is do the stuff. So this is really important to remember. I think this might help some of you, is to think that there's nothing glamorous about the process of achieving goals. Like building your glutes and going into the gym and doing hip thrusts with a barbell day after day, week after week is not fun. Choosing leafy greens, proteins and fats, and putting them in the right recipe is delicious, but the process of thinking about it, planning it, shopping, preparing it is tedious. Training for a marathon is tedious, like endless easy runs. For me at the moment, early mornings, fitting it in, weekends spent Fridays, the day before weekend, thinking, how the hell am I going to fit it in with everything else? When am I going to do it? It's tedious. But the difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is really, really basically down to showing up and doing the boring, tedious stuff when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, when you're busy, whatever. If Yeah, it's just about kind of showing up and doing that all the time. You know, studies show like we're hardwired to resist hard things. You know, nobody likes to do hard things. It's really difficult to do. Um, and if you start thinking about quite a good way around thinking about it is to accept right from the beginning that it's going to be too boring to start. And then that kind of helps to remove the resistance and you do it anyway. So studies show this. And also, I ran for the last 9 years, I ran a global initiative called Girls Run the World Runnery, in which I invited women around the world to run every day. I spoke about this briefly last week as well. Women from all over Europe actually took part. These were women who hadn't necessarily run before, they had to run every single day. That's not something that you want to do in the cold, the dark, the wind, and the rain. But over 6,000 women did that, and it's about just showing up and doing the thing. And if you remove the kind of idea of the choice about it and just accept, okay, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tedious sometimes, and then just do it. Uh, and the flip side of that is doing the stuff you say you're going to do actually feels really amazing. So forget the results of your workouts or of eating healthily or of say I'm learning French at the moment. I've been learning it for a year. I'm absolutely terrible at it. Every week I go to my French lesson. Every week when I come out of the French lesson, I go, right, I'm going to study. I'm gonna do it. And it's really, really, really hard to fit it in. It's like, first thing in the morning, sometime whilst I'm making dinner or something like that, I'm fitting it in. But I do it and slowly, 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 I feel better just for having committed to doing it and not letting it slide and not being like, oh, I can't do it, I can't fit it in, and doing it and slowly, slowly. Don't anyone ask me to speak French to them, however, right now. I am getting there. So doing that stuff, for some of you, I know it's been difficult to sometimes stay consistent with the exercise and or the diet. And it is just about sticking to it, and you'll get a great sense of achievement from just doing the stuff that you said you're going to do, rather than it turning into something really big in your head where it becomes even more of a barrier because you start thinking, God, I haven't done it. Oh, it's so hard, and it becomes more of a barrier. Just do it, because actually that takes away so much of the wasted energy thinking about the fact that you don't want to do it. So just go ahead and do it.